Hi, I'm Julie Hiert, and welcome to Making Light Two Humans Being. I am one of those human beings, and with me, as always, is my dear friend Kate Fago. And today we are going to discuss, is it okay to be human? Because we recently have had some struggles along the lines of being human, interacting myself with spiders. We'll talk about that. So we're just going to see where this all goes. And it may even tie back to the conversation we had last week too about racism, but we'll see where it all goes, because you know how these things can become the life of their own. Our guides are with us today too, as always, so they can help us guide the conversation for the greater and higher good of all. So we will just get started. Where did we want to start again?
Well, okay, so it's an interesting title choice, because when we say, like, is it okay to be human, that you're only human, in my view, is such what's the word, not a veiled, it's very condescending. It's usually forgiving you for something that's less than perfect. But we'll come back to that, because I mean, there are lots of aspects to being human. But generally, when people say, you know, if you're being hard on yourself, and they say, well, it's all right, Kate, you're only human, and you think, well, that's just an excuse for saying it's okay to be weak, or it's okay to be selfish, or it's okay, so all those things. But we'll look at it from the wider perspective. But since we started this conversation, I just have to hear the end of this. Julie wanted to stop. We wanted to get it recorded, so I'm still hanging on the end of this sentence. So you're going to have to start again, Julie. What is it with the spiders?
Oh my God. So many of you know, I moved here. I'm in the UP of Michigan. I moved here from Anchorage, Alaska at the end of April. And since when I first walked into this house the very first time, it was not a pleasant experience. Because the house was filthy, among other things. Anyway, but part of it is that the house also has a lot of spiders. We found in the foundation that there were a lot of openings, like pipes and whatnot, that the previous owner, and the house had been vacant for 2 years. So there were things that had been open. We've sealed everything. I don't want to spray, because spiders, I know, have a valuable role in the environment in the world. And I also don't want to spray chemicals. I don't, because I have a dog, I have myself, don't want to do that. It's not cool, in my opinion. So anyway, so I've just been dealing with a lot of spiders. And so being part of the community that we're part of, I'm meditating on it. I'm asking friends to meditate it on these spiders. So if I had moose before in Alaska helping me come into my power, these spiders are doing it, I don't like tenfold, because I go from like the largest deer in the world to like a spider, right? And
I thought you were talking about the spider, the largest. So hang on, how many are we talking about here? I mean, you just.
How many are we talking about? I can't even. I don't think I've encountered 100 yet, but I'm getting pretty close. Like, it's not like they're like I'm down there and it's like crawly, but it's every time I go into the basement, I can see, like right now.
I don't go into the basement.
Well, I have to. That's where my laundry area is, and I love to do laundry.
You do?
So I do. Yes, I love it.
Do you not just think it's the time of year? It's getting colder. They're starting to come in.
Oh, no. This has been all effing summer. So right now, like, for example, I know where 4 live in the basement, and I've had chats with them like, you stay there. There's lovely place, lovely web. I'm going over here. Just if you can just stay out of here and don't come upstairs. But there have been several times where I'll open the basement's door to go down, and there's one on the wall, right? And these, I'm not talking like the little guys, like there's tiny little jumping spiders, whatever.
I don't like them. I'd rather a big one.
Oh,
I don't like the little ones, because you can't tell where they're going.
Oh, the big.
You know what you need? You need a cat. I read somewhere what percentage of a cat's diet is insects, and I wouldn't have believed it, other than you see Sally will just go along and there'll be a snuffle, 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 and then a couple of legs hanging out her mouth. And it's awful, because Gary, not intentionally, but the amount of times I've saved a spider from the bath or from the shower or something like that, only to find Sally walking along behind me hoovering it up. So you need a cat. But anyway,
Lucas is rather helpful, because one night we were watching television and he jumped off the couch and went right over to this corner, and I go, Why is he doing that? And it was behind a door.
Mhm.
And Brad's like, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm like, will you go look? Because I had a feeling that it was a spider. Sure enough, big spider. And the ones I'm talking about are like, they're like with legs and everything. They're like that big around, but their body is like, it's big. They're big. So I am part of Facebook groups on spider identification. I'm trying to learn about,
Why?
because I was, well, in Alaska, I had some different kinds in my house and I liked them. And I always thought that this one kind was a wolf spider, which I thought was kind of cool, but they were actually barn funnel weavers. So I've like learned about spiders and it didn't freak me out until I get into this house. And then it just unsettled me. So that's also like an indication that they're trying to teach you something, because something that I wasn't afraid of, I'm now freaked out by. Same with moose. When we first moved to Alaska, I would walk right by them, no problem. And then the longer I lived there, the more I got like freaked out by them. And then Lucas got involved. And anyway,
What freaks you out about them?
moose?
No, spiders.
Oh, spiders. Okay, so here's what freaks me out about them. Of late, there, to me, it's an unpredictability aspect of them. And I have another friend who I believe is rather intuitive. She's more along the therapy lines. And so we were talking, she's not in our community, but she is a fan of our show, which I am so grateful for.
Hello, fan.
I know, it's lovely. She was walking me through this on Sunday too, because there's what it turns out to be, which I hadn't really thought about, was boundaries. Because at the moment we were talking about, I was telling her about something to do, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, but I was telling her about something and a spider appeared at that moment and I started to get really agitated and angry. And she's like, you realize the spider's talking to you about boundaries too. Because I've asked the spiders in this house, please stay there. I will not kill you. And I will live over here. Like, just, you have your area, I have mine. Please don't cross the area. And it's not been working.
Might be a different spider.
Say what?
It might be a different spider.
Oh no, I talk to all of them. Like hey, spider entities in this house.
Well, see, I do that when I sweep down the banisters of the shed out, so it's outside. These are only itty, we get big ones in the house, but outside they're just itty bitty ones, and they make beautiful things. But you know, it doesn't look great when guests arrive in the place. You know, if I left it alone, it would be like a wonderland in a week. You know, it would just be absolutely covered in webs. But I sweep it. But I always sort of say to them, I'm coming down here with a brush, so you know, if I can get out of the way, otherwise you're going to get killed. I don't want to kill you, but I need to sweep this. I'm sorry, you're going to have to start again. And a lot of them are still there, and I don't know if it's that I mean, maybe I'm not being. When you talk to them, do you give it the same time and respect as you would if you were talking to an animal, or do you just sort of go, right, you stay over there and I'm over here, bye?
I try to spend some time. I might not spend the full amount of time, but I do like, hello, I see you, I honor you, I think you're valuable. I mean, I understand the value you bring. Thank you so much. You would kindly just kind of hang out in your area. That'd be great. I want mine. I just don't want to have, because I don't want to have to.
Maybe you need to be more direct.
Yeah.
Stay over there, otherwise I will kill you.
Yeah, that's been of late. So anyway, but here's the interesting thing to me was, okay, so I've been asking outside of our fan, I've also been asking friends in our community, and originally it was a lot about, well, I knew originally spiders mean networking. So, you know, find your network or use your network, be a part of your network because of the web. That symbolizes that. So I'm like, that was the first lesson. Okay, cool. And then the next lesson that I got from some of our friends was, are you actually writing? It had to do with writing, which is what I really want to do. And I was struggling with trying to find time and devote time to writing. So I started writing and I'm like, okay, cool, spiders, you're going to go away now. I'm doing what you asked me to do. Oh, no. Now, so I'm just like, okay, wait, now what is it? So then I was talking with my friend on Sunday and she's like, you know what? I really think it's boundaries. And I'm like, that's fascinating. So spider appeared in the kitchen. We were talking about a boundary that had been encroached on myself. And I'm like, God bless America. There's another stupid spider. So not stupid, but anyway. And I'm like, that's it. So I had to take him out. I'm so sorry, spider community. Very sorry. Because because I know people get very upset about it. And
I get upset. I mean, I don't really like spiders at all, but I wouldn't intentionally kill one.
I try to let them go. Yeah. Then the next day, one was in the bathroom. Not cool. Then last night, I'm laying in bed. So currently my husband is out of town. So I'm here in the house, which is me and Lucas. I'm laying in bed. And there's not a lot of room between where I'm in bed and the wall. And something catches my eye. And sure enough, on the floor, big. I'm big, big, big. And I'm like, so.
Julie, if you said earlier, if I hadn't seen it, he would have been on the bed.
Yeah.
If you hadn't seen it, he wouldn't have gone anywhere near the bed and you'd have been none the wiser and we wouldn't be having this conversation. What do you think he's going to do to you in the bed?
Crawl on me.
Why?
I just think that's what's going to happen. Like the moose, like this is the same thing with the moose. My husband would always say, they're not seeking you out to come up and stomp on you. You don't know that.
Well, I don't know about moose, but I can't see that a spider has any interest in you whatsoever. I mean, I just don't. I mean, I don't know what they eat, but it's not humans, is it?
No, I know.
Actually, that's the reason I tolerate spiders, is because they eat things that are less desirable even than they are, as in mosquitoes, flies, other creepy crawly animals that I would rather not have in the house as well. I mean, Gary's always taking our spiders outside, and I'm like, well, I don't know why you put them outside. You know, they got inside because they wanted to be inside, you know, but he puts them outside. We have a Tupperware box, which is called Boris's Taxi. That's what we call it, because that's the box we use to catch big spiders for Gary to put outside. I just leave them. I don't, you know, I just avoid them. I would get them off if they were in bed. Don't get me wrong, Julie. If they come anywhere near me, I get hysterical like a teenager. But I wouldn't hurt them. I just, you know.
I might have to adopt a Boris's Taxi mentality. However, what you just said though about them, that they, like, it's a not worthy. So in our intuitive coaching work that we're doing right now with our teacher, the one of the negative beliefs that all humans are working on, there's 4. One of them is not worthy. No, what did I just say? Not worthy?
Not worthy.
Not worthy. Which, okay, so it feels like, so there's this boundary thing that really resonated with me when I was talking with my friend on Sunday. There's clearly this whole writing and coming into on my own, but that feels like I'm moving through that. But now we're into this boundary, not worthy. And so last night and this morning, as I was asking my guides, okay, what is the deal? Like, this one got really, in my opinion, this one really got into my space. Like my bedroom, I've not seen a single spider since I've lived here in my bedroom. And it's just like, they're coming closer and closer. So in our world, something's trying to be communicated. And my guide said, you know, you've never fully felt at home in this house. You've never allowed your spirit to permeate the entire house. And until you do, because every time I see one, I shrink a little more. Every time I see a moose, I shrink a little more. And it's every time I see something, instead of it taking away my power, I need to say, this is my space. I am very worthy of this space. So now some of this is starting to click into place now that you just said that. This is really, so when I remember I listen to a lot of podcasts, as Kate knows. I listened to one called The Bioengineers, and there was a Lakota elder who was on, and he said every time he comes home, he walks into the house and he goes, "Hi, home. I am home. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful for being here." He says something along those lines. I'm absolutely paraphrasing what he said, but the intention is you come home, you're grateful for the space, and I can feel like my energy permeating every corner, which has not been how it's been. So this morning when my guides told me that, I sat there for a minute and I just felt like if I was an angel, my wings unfurl, everything just kind of permeates around. And even into the basement, I sent the spiders love into the basement. I'm doing it now too. And then I took Lucas for a walk. We saw all these beautiful spider webs that were full of dew. It was gorgeous. Took pictures because I want to write about it. And anyway, and then when I came home, I did the Lakota practice. So, and I,
What's the Lakota practice?
hello home, I am home, thank you for being here, and just honoring and like you ground yourself in the home. And they're right, it's absolutely right. I have never felt at home here. And as of 5 minutes ago, my house is actually for sale. we're having to move.
Maybe you should leave the spiders alone then, because
right, because they've got work to do to get ready for the next people. So yeah, but that's all okay. So this just feels really good. But this idea of like letting others take my power, which is another thing that I've experienced where I live here, is there is there was a lot of it feels like a lot of negative energy, a lot of anger up here, that I had never encountered before. And so I know that all too is part of a greater learning too, of not, you still have to stand in your power, be your light, be the light you want to see in the world. Don't shrink it. And I can see now how I was, oh gosh, I can't go down the basement. Oh, I love laundry, can't do laundry. Like I was allowing the boundaries to encroach on me instead of me setting the boundaries and living it. It just feels so much better now after Sunday, after Mr. Spider, whatever, hopefully Mr. I don't know, last night, and what you just suggested too. So
I don't even know what I suggested.
I don't know either, but it just felt.
I think you came to it yourself, dear.
I don't. No, you said it, but it sparked. You did it. You sparked something that made me think of not worthy. So
I'll own it.
So thank you. But anyways, about like taking the power, we were also talking about, to kind of segue into what else we were talking about. We were talking about Matt Kahn, one of our heroes. Is that a word?
I'd call him a hero.
Inspirational source. Yeah. He talks too about just, even though we're in, even though as intuitives, there is this larger, very, very large community and of intuitives, light workers. It's our time right now we're being called. We chose to be in this life at this moment because we had something to bring to help move everything forward. I don't want to just say humanity, because we are part of a larger communion, as Thomas Berry said this morning, a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects, which we can talk about. But we're here to help move everything forward, including our participation with Mother Earth, or cooperation with Mother Earth.
I watched that. Sorry, I just have to say, I watched that film about fabulous fungi, or whatever it's called.
Wasn't that amazing?
Isn't it? But I just want to watch it again, just even just watching it all. I mean, it reminded me of like when you see underwater photography of jellyfish and things, just the way they move. But watching, so to explain, it's just all about fungi. So you guys say fungi, which sounds
I say
wrong.
Fungi, actually. Fungi.
Okay, well I say fungi.
Cool.
Fungi anyway. But there's a lot of photography of how it grows, and it's, oh my god, it's just breathtaking. But it's fascinating. It's on Netflix. It's called The Miracle of Fungi.
Fantastic Fungi, and we'll put the link in the show.
Yeah. Stunning, absolutely. But even just to like, guys, we'll watch this, but I even just I'm going to make him watch the beginning of it, just because, like, especially at the beginning, there's just it's just it's just eye-wateringly incredible to watch it. Just how beautiful it is, and I just think it's absolutely stunning how whenever you watch anything natural, it's just that's where awesome comes from, isn't it? It is absolute awe, just watching it and going, oh my god, we seem to be astonished that nature can do these things, and yet of course everything has come from. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But yes, we are not just a collection of subjects. We are
communion of subjects, not a collection of objects, is what.
Well, I think I don't even like the word subjects. That feels we're a communion of organisms.
Think of subjects as a synonym for noun. As a synonym for noun, not like king and subjects. Think of it.
Okay.
Yeah, a noun.
I was thinking subjects as in a title of a. Anyway. Anywho.
Yeah, no, I had to get through this morning too when I heard that line. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Back to. No, I've interrupted you and I've forgotten where we were.
Matt Kahn. So he was saying that we have this huge. We're all light workers. We're working to move things forward consciously. Mass consciousness. That's probably a better way to put it. Mass consciousness, and we're all still at the same time human. So we're all still struggling. Some of us on different, I mean, we're all still struggling with ego. We're all, no one, no one's here is perfect by any means. And sometimes, even though we're trying to do things for the greater and higher good, ego can surface.
Do you not find, though, Julie, that when you see evidence of said ego, I mean, and I'm not talking, obviously, I was just about to say we're all still human. Let's not say that, because, but I find, do you not find yourself a little bit disappointed in people?
Oh, yes, all the time. It is really hard. So I'm also going through A Course in Miracles, which I've mentioned before. And part of what we're trying to do is come at things from the miracle is looking at things from a place of love instead of a place of hate or fear. Sorry, not hate, fear. And it's really hard to look at another human being who may be in a state of fear and not meet them in that state of fear.
Yes, I think, though, that
that's really hard.
it's one thing to see a man on the street behaving that way, and we're supposed to say, well, that that's fine. But when it's within a community of people who are supposedly more conscious and supposedly that I find that I'm finding it much harder to be tolerant. I tell you, the first time this is an example for me when it started. I've always had a huge mistrust of religion, and as I got older and realized it was actually okay to mistrust religion and there was good reasons for it. I mean, I probably didn't know it until I would have been in my 30s, when a guy at work who I was very friendly with, he very, very rigid engineer about so many things, but just a brilliant mind. We used to talk about a lot of things, and he said, "Oh, religion's all about control." Like, it had never occurred to me, right? And even then, even though I don't, not religious at all in that sense, although there's obviously some ingrained beliefs in me that come from being religious, it just never occurred. It felt almost like sacrilege for him to say that. Like, I was quite shocked that anyone would openly speak out against religion. I'm a long way from there now, obviously. But the first time I met a group of Buddhists, when I went on my first Buddhist retreat, and Buddhism is, spiritual, not lovey-dovey, but I saw that as a spiritual religion. Mm-hmm. And then there was one of the ladies on that retreat was really quite a hard-nosed bitch, if I'm honest, and it really, in a very snide and underhand way, my friend was sharing a room with her, and she was just really like intolerant and nasty. And I remember, and it just enraged me in a way it wouldn't have been if she'd just been another casual person. But it's like she was actually a practicing Buddhist. She may even have been on the first levels of whatever they do for their hierarchy. And hierarchy, that's nothing we should talk about. But it almost seemed insulting to me that someone should have been actively participating in all these lessons and growth and still behave like that. Mm-hmm. So that's that's what I'm finding, is that amongst our group of more conscious people, I am a lot less tolerant of humanness. Mm-hmm. I think when it's the sorry, my clock's chiming. When it's the less pleasant side of humans, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to when you have an affinity for someone and you see someone, outside it's not necessarily within like a phone call away, but anybody, someone that you've had an affinity for or a reverence for, and you see them stumble. We've talked about, like, if I ever found out that Bono from U2, I mean, he's human too. I'm like, I don't want to hear anything bad, la 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 la, but I think that's actually, now that I think about this, it's really an opportunity to extend that divine having a human experience hand. But that's challenging. It's really challenging, because you want like, for me, I can feel like, when I see people that I know and I like, and that they react like that, it's just like, well, I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that to me. Like, my boundary goes up. And it's not that I have to, and even A Course in Miracles talks about this too, it's not that I have to accept their behavior. That's not the thing. It's more like I see you, I see me in you, and I still want to extend my hand, and I'm still here. I'm still I like, in my mind, like I think of myself like I'm still a pillar of light. If you want to react, if you want to interact with me in that regard, absolutely welcome. If you don't, then you can just kind of go over there, and I'll still send you love. I still will, be here. But that's really, really hard, because that's not how we're trained.
I also think, and this is maybe something we should dig into one time offline, because I've just realized what I think it is for me, because so much of my negative belief system is around being disappointed, and I'm trying to get past the expectation that everything's going to go to shit. That when someone I deeply respect, and the thing is, I have to say, it doesn't happen often. Like, I have millions of friends, not millions, obviously. Most of my good friends, I would say, have never really disappointed me. I think I could say that. Because I actually don't forgive if somebody does, probably because the sorts of things, it's like there's a line that you can cross and cross and cross, but there's one line, and it's not arbitrary, but it's probably more about not even morals and ethics. I don't know, but there is like, and I can almost see this line. I haven't quite identified what it is a friend could do a lot of things that may be perceived by other people as not good, but it wouldn't bother me, and it wouldn't bother me, and it wouldn't bother me. But then there's just this particular area. And I think we've talked about this. And I know I felt it about RuPaul, although he wasn't crossing any line there. That was like, I read something about RuPaul, and I was just a bit disappointed because I wasn't expecting to be. That's all worn off. I'm fine with it now. Yeah. But there's something about people that if I see, it's almost like, I think it's sort of selfishness or pomposity and arrogance. It's that sort of, how sometimes you just get a flash of it in people, and then immediately I'm like, whoa, and it changes my entire feeling of someone. And it's sometimes it's not even something they've done, it's just getting a flash of it. I can forgive my friends all sorts of things, like if they behave atrociously with other people, or not necessarily with me, I'm not sure I'd forgive it, but it's like, I can forgive people lots of things, but there are certain things I see that would just, it's just like crossing a line for me, and suddenly I'm like, oh, you're not the person I thought you were. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't.
Well, we did talk about the RuPaul, and then in a previous episode of
yes,
yeah.
But we don't really know what happened there. But it sounded like, yes, that he had said something. Was it unforgivable? Probably not.
Oh, well, no, we didn't know. You didn't. One of us.
Apparently, he said
yeah.
I remember what was said. It's just we don't know the context. Okay. He said, whatever you say to me when the cameras aren't rolling doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's not an arbitrary line, as in there must be some common theme, but it's something that I find really distasteful in people that will just. But if it's people that are part of, like, in our community and stuff like that, it's just harder. It's harder when it's somebody who, well, I say our community, somebody who I believe is more spiritual or more advanced, more aware, more like that. Whereas, you come across knuckleheads all the time. That's fine,
Yeah. Well, when you're in this metaphysical, spiritual area, you think, oh, we're all namaste and woo woo and love, like almost hypnotic. Yes. And then it's like, oh, and then you find people at a Buddhist retreat, and you're just like, whoa, wait.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. So that's about being human, but that again, that's this idea that being human is being selfish, that being human is, I don't know if I buy all that. I don't think that people are automatically this idea that when you fall below a certain standard that you're only human. I don't know, that doesn't sit right for me.
Really good. Yeah, it's so interesting, because that idea of when you say you're human, then it defines a line of, something, and below that line is not necessarily positive, a bit more maybe negative attributes. To me, that even goes into language, because I am finding that the way language just gets language is a human invention. So it's just like, it just gets us all tangled up in knots, because you may say, oh, you spell color with a U, I spell color with an R. And then, but because of that, then we may even begin to define it differently. It's just, when I look at, when I read some of the mystics, and a lot of them were Catholic and back in before the bubonic plague, and they actually meant like, God's within you, God is everywhere, you are God. Like, they meant this big, broader version. And then whoop, bubonic plague happened. And then all of that got reinterpreted into a different way. Where it was like, God was external from you, God was out there.
Why did the bubonic plague trigger that?
Because people were dying, and they had a scapegoat of rats. And so while previously the mystics were the integration with nature, there's a whole green aspect to mysticism. I'm still learning, so if I get any of this wrong, please forgive me. But there's
when you say green, you just mean
Mother Earth,
involvement with nature. Yeah.
Mother Earth, trees. Oh, yeah. Which did you? By the way, sorry. Side note: in the Fantastic Fungi, did you notice that the author of our new book club selection was in the book?
Well, I assume, was she the lady at the beginning with the longer hair?
Suzanne Simard? No.
Or was she the one with the blonde hair?
Shorter blonde hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked both of them, but yeah, she had a bigger part in it. Yes.
Yeah, I know which one I mean. Anyway, so the mystics talk about green and us being connected to it, and needing that connection because we are part of that larger cosmos. There's also the Father Sky, if you will, Mother Earth, Father Sky, divine masculine, divine feminine. There's all this stuff. And then the bubonic plague happened. People got sick. They blamed rats. Rats are part of nature. And so they started to turn away from all of it. And this disconnect began. And then God became external. God became angry, vengeful, all these things. And it was like, that's not, when you go back and read what they originally wrote, you just see that there was just language got taken, just was interpreted completely differently. And it's just, it's really interesting. So that humanity or human line, you're right. Like, we're not like, okay, so lions, oh, well, let's go back to spiders. So spiders have a connotation of being scary because we've put that on them, when yes, they are a viable aspect of an ecosystem. Without spiders, you won't have, name a million things. If you don't have fungi, we don't have a lot of things. You don't have trees without fungi. Yeah, it's all related. So it's just, right now I'm just dealing with spiders. But anyway, but this idea, and you were talking about this earlier too, was this from a human perspective too, is we also have this idea, like, and this happened too, I think, in the bubonic plague, is this idea of taking things being taken from us. And so when we feel like, instead of this integration, this separateness that we have from other things in the world, other people, all that just creates this, well, you're going to take something from me, which you were saying earlier. Yes, I'm taking
yes.
As far as the racism conversation we had last week.
Well, yes, and it's the same with it was like about the abortion thing that we talked about before. And I know, sorry, you don't want to use that word, but I forget what word. But even further back than that, for me, and my first, and I suppose this is even before I really thought much about gay rights and stuff like that. I had friends that were gay, but I guess I sort of, after university, I drifted away from the cool people and I didn't know anymore. But I had no strong feelings about it, and finding out that people objected to gay marriage, that's for me the biggest example of the smallness of some humans. Is why does that bother anyone? Like, if you don't want to get married, don't get married. If you do, you do. Why does two people of the same sex, whatever you think of homosexuality, why does it take anything away from you? That's the bit I don't get. It's like, is there only so many marriages that can go round? Like, it's just beyond me.
Yeah. So here's another interesting thing. I just heard this morning as I was listening to, I was reading Matthew Fox's daily meditation, and he incorporates Thomas Berry, that I just learned about this morning too. But Matthew Fox is of late well, a lot, talks a lot about this divine feminine, divine masculine. We've been separate. Divine masculine, that's where we are right now. Very, very knowledge-based, not wisdom-based for divine feminine. And we need to get back to this equality of divine masculine, divine feminine. And one thing is same-sex relationships, same-sex love, if you will, is actually an expression of the divine feminine, because it's actually a really strong integration of divine masculine, divine feminine, I believe is what he was saying. So if I misquoted or misunderstood, but that is why we're seeing some of that. The other thing is that
Explain that, can you?
Yes. So you have, so right now people will take a look at divine feminine, divine masculine in human or normal, not, I don't want to say normal, in straight, I meant straight, not, you know what I mean? Like pure biological.
Heterosexual.
Yes. Well, like very regimented, I am a woman, therefore you are a man, therefore like you are male, female, like, and that's not what divine masculine, divine feminine mean by any means. That's actually what I've just described as far as you are female. That's extremely limiting. In human beings, the expression of homosexuality, bisexuality, all of this is actually really strong examples of the integration of divine feminine and divine masculine in a human being. So it's, if you look at it from that perspective, it's like, I mean, we all know love is love. And therefore, what does it mean? None of it, this category of man and female, whatever, doesn't matter, because love is love. But when he went into it from this mystical aspect, mysticism aspect, it was like, oh, that makes even more, that feels even more inclusive to me too. Not that it wasn't before, but it just feels like that now. But so there's that. In addition, I was watching Oprah Winfrey interviewed Elliot Page, who is the now in his male form, was born, and I don't know what the right words are. I need to understand the right words, but
I probably do.
Oh, was born.
I don't know.
I'll just say this and you can correct me. Was born a female and was named Ellen Page, an actress that we all know, is transgender and is now Elliot Page, actor. And he was saying, first of all, I didn't realize the extent to the uncomfortableness in a body a male would have in a female body and vice versa. So, and explain the physicality of it. And I thought that was interesting. Additionally, though, he said there is in the indigenous cultures, there is the idea, this is not a new phenomenon, transgender. So everybody who thinks
Two spirits
up and coming. Yes, I'd never heard that before.
No, and I looked it up day before yesterday because I was watching Canada's Drag Race, and they were saying that, oh, I forget her name. His name, her name, don't know, never told us actually. I'll probably look it up, can't remember. And it said that he was or she was the, and I'm saying he, she flippantly because I actually don't know, I assume it's a he, but the drag persona would be she. But yes, they referred to Two Spirit, and I was like, what, Two Spirit? So I looked it up, but it's a Native American, so it goes back, and I can't remember the words that Wikipedia used to wasn't even transgender, I don't think. It was just, yeah. But it's actually more than somebody being transgender. It's more the whole idea around it. It's more than just transgender. It was, yeah, but pillars of society that represent that or something. Yeah, it's quite, yeah, fascinating, isn't it? I'm just amazed at how things line up. Yeah. You know, like you saying that and me saying that. This is happening to me a lot now. It's like something completely random happens, and then suddenly something else completely random, and something else completely random, and it may come to absolutely nothing, but there is so definitely a thread through it. Yeah. Yeah. Because the whole thing about the fungi started with that girl. I told you that girl just stopped me outside and said, I just found a captain's head or whatever, I don't know, some type of magic mushroom in the field. And I was like, and since then, things about mushrooms keep popping up all over the place. I've actually been Googling microdosing and really? So I'll probably, yeah. Let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Well, okay. So we're just going to go on a fungi tangent. So for me,
I hadn't really paid attention to any of that stuff till we lived in Alaska and going into always hiking in the mountains and the forest and all that stuff. And I'm part of an organization that's a public lands cooperative organization. And we offer classes in a lot of the national parks, but Denali's one of them. And I did a wolf class, fascinating, but there was a moss and lichen class that I was teaching the summer of COVID. And I had heard from the wolf biologist in Denali that it would blow your mind. And so I was all excited. And then it didn't happen.
What do you mean by wolf? When you say wolf course, do you mean literally wolves?
Yeah, literally wolves. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's a whole nother thing to talk about. Anyway, so we didn't get to take the class, but since then, fungi keep presenting themselves. So we are a part of a book club, and we just selected this week to read Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. And the more interviews I listened with her about the book and about the interconnectedness of forests and the mother tree, and that they use the something psyllium network of fungi to communicate.
Microcilium.
Thank you. Which then came into that movie, and she was in the movie, and it's just, and now I'm like, everywhere I go, I'm like it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah.
I just want to read this out so that Two-Spirit is a modern Pan-American umbrella term used by some Indigenous North Americans to describe Native people in their communities who fulfill a traditional third gender ceremonial and social roles in their cultures, which I find very fascinating, because I don't know if that, when they say they ceremonial and social role, it's almost like they're playing a part as opposed to being. So I'm not really sure. Just food for thought. I just wanted to put it out there because I didn't want to misrepresent what I'd read in Wikipedia. That's from Wikipedia.
See, and I even liked how you said playing a part, because then on my mind went from they're playing a part instead of being a part, like meaning separate.
Yes, yes, and in a way that's sort of what it's all about, isn't it? It's about because it's funny because you said that about being really unhappy in a body, and again I think it's one of these things, a bit like our discussion about how can a white person ever understand what it's like to be black. How can I, as a cisgender woman who has never questioned my sexuality, how could I ever understand? I mean, God, I know what it's like to live in a body that I wish was different. Like, of course, I want to have bigger breasts, smaller waist, smaller ass, more beautiful, all of those things. And there have been times in my life where it's made me extremely unhappy. But to be honest, I've funneled that all into my weight. It's not like I've ever thought I want to change my bone structure. I've actually always thought that what I have been given is fine. It's just too fat, but how can we possibly understand? I don't know what it's like to feel I'm a man in a woman's body because I can't come close to understanding it. But when you think of it's just almost what I wonder, this may be straying into dangerous territory, if we were less physically identified with looks and roles, would it matter? It's almost like people are saying, why does this happen now? And I don't think it's new per se. I think it's more just that there's so much obsession with the physical. And I was reading this, someone else was saying this recently, there's so much obsession with the physicality of who we are and what we represent physically and what we look like, that these things have become people, because we are so defined by A, what we look like, and B, the roles that we play, that maybe that's why people are coming forward and that they have the safety to come forward and say that they're uncomfortable or wish to be, wish to be identified or wish to identify differently. So I don't think it's necessarily that the condition of people has changed and that this is something that has increased, but it's almost like our external physical roles have become more and more important in our society, that maybe there's more scope there for people to be uncomfortable in it. Don't know.
No, I think you're actually onto something, because now that a couple things, I feel like it was always present, but as mass consciousness continues to grow, and the things that are notice my fingers are doing this, and I'm like a spider, no. And the things that are, how do I want to say this? The things that need to be brought into the light. So anything that is fear-based, anything that is turmoil, anything that type of stuff that's being brought into the light. I feel like as mass consciousness grows and there's more and more people willing to accept that there are so many different ways to be, this idea of being attached to the physical identity is being brought into the light to say, this is not the best way to be attached, identified with the physical. Let's look at something, but we have to do it that way. And also too, I just remembered, I think what Matthew Fox was saying this morning about homosexuality is that it actually has a stronger element of the divine feminine. And so the fact that we are more open to homosexuality, we are more understanding of it, we are more accepting of all of the things, is actually bringing the divine feminine to where it needs to become, so that we are equal to the divine masculine. It's not necessarily integration. So my guides corrected me. Thank you so much. So
wow,
ground to cover. And so we talked about spiders.
everything.
Talked about spiders, talked about people that are even Buddhists and woo-woo still having egos, and how does that play? And then the separates, and oh my goodness, so many things.
So my takeaways are, one, I would like to do a session with you about understanding why I am so hard on people who disappoint me. These are people, because I'm completely unforgiving about somebody who I respect, who fails in only some particular cases. I'll forgive them everything else. And two, I wanted to say about humanness, because people do tend to talk about humanness. It's almost like, oh, it's like, I'm giving myself a hard time or whatever. And then, and I say to Stella, what, my sister, I'd be like, I don't understand it. I've done all this work and yet I still feel X, Y, Z. And she'll go, well, you're only human. And I understand that. And they're words that I say to other people, but it's almost like we're using the word human to describe the failings of who we are, when actually being human is fucking amazing. I mean, it's amazing when we're saying, we should never be saying, but you're only human. We should be saying, you're human.
Yeah.
Like, embrace it, like, not apologize for it. Oh, and here's my new name. I haven't worked out quite how to nuance it, but I'm going to have a website called Unapologetically Kate, or Unapologeticatedly. I haven't worked it out. They've got to get them both in there. But by fuck, and I'm saying that intentionally. We talked about bad words. I was watching, it wasn't RuPaul's Drag Race, it was the Canada one. And I realized, and you said, why do you like, or someone else had said to me, why do you really like RuPaul's Drag Race? And you talked about language. That, it came to me again, it was after we had that conversation where I said, because all those words are, they're sprinkled in with love, variety, color, all of that. And I just think it's an amazing celebration of, there is no word that you can say that can hurt me. It's a celebration of being queer, gay, bitch, whore. I just love it. I love that they are all words that are just fantastically descriptive, so colorful, without any hurt in them whatsoever. So I know some people are appalled by that, but I just think it'd be amazing to be in a world where the words you use are never meant to hurt.
Yeah, that's really, you
just, if you took the sting out of it, if you take the sting out of a word, if you say, I'm going to use this word and I'm going to embrace this word, it can never be used as an insult.
Yeah, that you're right. That's how I've looked at the word, pussy, because it's just like, hey, most part.
Well, that's going too far.
I know. But it's just like, if someone decides to call me that, I'm like, damn straight. Do you know how strong I am? Like, that's the attitude we have, right?
So this is another Drag Race thing, and I have to admit, because however open-minded you try to be, there are obviously little dark corners in me that go, and one of the things they say is, my pussy is on fire, and I'm like, oh God. But they mean it to get to sort of celebrate being a woman. They would talk, and they would talk about, like, my pussy's on fire, and you're like, this sounds to me like 1960s comedy that's just so crass. And to me, if anyone else said that to me in any other world, I'd say that's boys' humor. Like, I don't do boy. It's like, it's like jokes about shit and piss and stuff like that. It's boys' humor. I don't go there. But again, it's a celebration for them. It's saying, this is how feminine I am. This is how beautiful I have made myself. My pussy is on fire. And again, it's just, you know, and also I have to say I quite like it when people shock me with words, you know, if it's as long as it's meant with love.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I love the F word. It's one of my favorite words.
I'm astonished though at how many people in this day and age do use it in like on in films and stuff now. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's taken the sting out of it. It means it, you know.
Yeah.
And on that very, very diverse note.
Go ahead. This is two humans being, by the way. So humans being in a celebration. So we're just going to take that right there. So yeah. You want to take us out, Kate? You want?
I'll try. I haven't. Where's my teleprompter? Well, thank you very much for very varied conversation, Julie. I'm not sure that we came to any conclusion, or maybe we came to lots and lots of conclusions. That there was lots of stuff that came up in that, which we'll put in the show notes. And I appreciate that, because we are so random and unplanned and live, shall we say, that we probably bring up a lot of references that people don't get, but that's fine. You'll find them in the notes. And if anything, if they inspire you to go look at them, I mean, that movie we talked about, absolutely incredible. And we can put that book as well, because I'm quite fascinated with that, you know, of the books that we read. And you can, well, the information's there if you want it or not. As always, if you have any comments, good or bad, whatever you feel, do join in. You can follow us on YouTube, you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram. All that information is in the notes below. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and I'm Kate Foggy. This is Julie Hurt, and we are very much today two humans being.
See you next time.